Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, it is our
100th interview with
Pete Johns! Woohoo!
So kick back, hang out with us. We're going to be talking a load of nonsense, and it's all sponsored by DistroKid today. And we're going to kick off with Pete's brand new single, Sink or Swim.
All my life I've worried about the things in the water I cannot see. Got this panic washing over me. Have a fear of what might sting and what those circling sharks will bring. Maybe I'll be safer on the shore. 'Cause I don't know what's in the water. And I don't know if I'll sink or swim. Talking heads on the news today, telling me what to think and say. Some people won't come back from down below. On reflection, my memories are always making a fool of me. But I'm learning to ebb and flow with the tide. 'Cause I don't know what's in the water. And I don't know if I can win. There might be more under the surface. But it's time to dive in. Oh yeah. Cause I don't know what's in the water. And I don't know if I can win. There might be more under the surface. But it's time to dive in. Nobody knows what's in the water. Nobody knows who's gonna win. So I'm gonna just keep on going, even though I might sink or swim.
Boom! Pete Johns with the Sink or Swim. What an awesome track that is. Let's give it. Yeah! Listen to that applause, Pete. They love you. I can see you off cam smiling. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jade. This is How to App on iOS. This is the 100th interview. It's not really an interview because it's more like a hang, because I've already interviewed Pete and we know each other pretty well, so we're just going to talk a load of nonsense today. So it's a nonsense interview. It is sponsored by our wonderful friends at DistroKid, so we'll talk about them a little bit today. Yeah, there's a lot of topics to talk about. So we thank DistroKid for that. Thank you all for being here. Without further ado, let's just bring Pete in because that's what we're all here to see. You're all here to see the man, the myth, the legend, Pete Johns. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Jade. Thank you for playing the song. And how epic were Jade's drums on that song, just quietly? I know she's too modest to say that herself, but the drums are what made that the punk song. I think it just qualifies as punk now. Some people are saying that's not punk enough, Johns. And I'm like, I reckon with the drums, it just sneaks over into punk because genre is important, folks. Never forget.
It's not. Hello. It's not important. You know it. But you are right. Like, well, thank you. Firstly, thank you, because we were watching along in Clubhouse as you were making the song, and Brad's a specialist punk artist, and I remember him saying too punk, and I saw people saying put in some synth and stuff, and we're going, no synth, no, we need more drums, we need crazy drums, and I'm just stoked that I always get the chance to play drums for your music. Because it's wicked.
Get the chance, or just push your way in there. Well, either way, it's the same outcome, isn't it?
It did happen like that, didn't it?
Yeah, you're just like you are getting me to play drums. You are getting me to play drums on this, aren't you, John? So I'm like, oh, sure, go on, knock yourself out. Here's the approach.
I remember even when you were doing that song, the Sink or Swim song, you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about using the auto drummer for this, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing drums for this, and I'm just like, no auto drummer, man.
I've done the problem is that my channel's an education channel, and I haven't talked about how to do drums in like 2 years because you just keep playing the drums. So I've never had to, and I'm a lazy man, so I'm not going to go create a tutorial unless I'm going to actually use it. So one of these days I'll use drums, but yeah, let's be honest, I'm too lazy, and it sounds better when you do it. So I'm going to go with that.
Well, I have to admit, like I love playing the drums because, I haven't been playing drums a long time, but I do love knowing that my drums are on Pete John's tracks because, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a channel. I wouldn't have had the balls to do it. So and I really fell in love with your music, because everybody knows, I think we can agree, people in the chat, which I'll say hello to shortly, you are you write these hooks that hurt our brains.
Yeah, I think I know a lot of people. In fact, the biggest criticism I get is people like, "Oh man, I heard like 10 seconds of your song this morning, and now it's been in my head all day." And I'm like, "Well, then job done, successful." But yeah, I think it's part of it is hook writing, and I think you said in one of the intros that you wrote, you're like, Pete Johns keeps it simple, which I could take as an insult, but I'm going to take it as a compliment to say, yeah, look, I haven't got away from my roots, which is that if I'm going to say my job is to help people create, record, and release their best music. If I'm not creating, recording, and releasing my best music, or at least close to it, then I can't really be telling other people that they should be doing it. So I try to practice what I preach, and I think one of the great things is doing what I do, and with shows like Your Music Live, where I listen to hours and hours of people's independent music each week, I'm borrowing and stealing left, right, and center. So the reason I could write a hook that might stay in your head is that I've been listening to everyone else's hooks, and I then work out what works, what doesn't work, what should I bring into my music. So yeah, and having different genres, again, because genre is important. I'm going to say that so many times. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says genre is important. That's my next Studio Live Today t-shirt. But yeah, just listening to different music, it gets in your head, and then it helps you write hooks. So thank you. I appreciate the kind words from everyone. And it's a cool song. And yeah, I'm actually super proud of it.
It's been really interesting watching you because, when I first came across your music as more acoustic stuff, acoustic kind of folk, rock, folk, whatever you want to call it, folk. I don't know what to call it, but just Pete Johns. But yeah, your roots from alternative 90s punk, Green Day, Pearl Jam, all that kind of stuff. And now you're starting to head back over to that scale again. I really like seeing that happen.
Yeah, it's my midlife crisis. I say to Georgie, I'm not going to run out and find a young blonde 20-year-old. I'm not going to buy an expensive sports car, but I probably am going to play a lot more loud, grungy, distorted music because I think we all get to an age where you're like, I miss being young, and I miss not, waking up going, groaning and grunting and pulling yourself out of bed. So I think it's important to recapture some of that stuff. And for me, yeah, it's been great, like just discovering things and listening to some old school music and finding some of these tones, these guitar tones that just really make you rock out. And I had a guitar solo in my song, like that played by me. And I don't think I've had a guitar solo in a song for about 5 years. So yeah, it's really nice and fun doing that. But again, there's other music out there as well. So diversity is key. And I think people get into I guess one of the challenges is you pigeonhole yourself and you say, I like this and I don't like this. And I think that can be super limiting. And sometimes if you just give something a go, you'll never know. And even things like classical music. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but Apple have just launched a classical music. I'm a huge classical music listener. I love it when I'm doing my studies or if I'm working on something or I'm answering some emails, I'll throw on some classical music because it is just so good and it's so intricate, and some of the ways that it's created and the arrangements, yeah, they help you in your songwriting as well because you learn about things. And you're like, oh yeah, okay. It doesn't just have to be 1 4 5 4 6 4 5 1. You can actually move things around and change it up. I know that was a long bow
No.
to draw from where we started from, but get used to it, folks. That's what happens when Jade
We're just here to talk
go off
shit.
on tangents upon tangents.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, like, as a metalhead, growing up as a metalhead, classical music is an integral part of metal. And it's funny, you know, through the 90s, we went through this whole satanic panic stuff with metal. And funnily enough, 20 years later, we're here again. It's all happening again with satanic panic stuff. But it's so funny. People get so focused on the lyrics in metal and go, you know, oh, it's so evil. And it's like, do you not see the intricacy and the beauty in the metal that it is classical? It's beautiful. But they're too busy, like, you know.
No, every generation. Look, it's not just generational and an age thing, but every group doesn't like another group and thinks that everything they do is bad and everything that they do is good. And you know, I always say that, especially these days, people's moral line is just slightly below what they will accept and what they will do themselves. So the hypocrisy in the world these days is quite crazy. That people are saying, "Yeah, you can't. I'm going to tell you you can't do this, but I'm just going to do this thing, and my morals tell me that it's slightly better than what you're doing, therefore it's okay, even though it's probably just as heinous, if not sometimes more." But yeah, like I don't know, you know me, I'm just all about acceptance and sitting on the fence, so I don't get involved in a lot of this stuff. I have my opinions, and I keep them to myself, or I write them in songs.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to meet Pete in real life, you may get to hear those opinions. And, you know, whereas me, on the other hand, I just spew everything out and probably kill off half my audience.
Well, I was thinking about just that as I was coming on here. I was thinking about the fact that if folks meet me in real life, like this version of me is like a 2x of myself. So a lot of people say that when you go on camera, you got to 10x your energy, and that's where you get like the wanky YouTuber thing. It's like, hey guys, like, comment, subscribe. I don't believe in that, but I do think you need to add a little bit, because if I was just talking to you like if Jade and I were having a conversation here in the studio face to face, yeah, I would be about half the level of energy. So it's not to say that it's insincere. I think people get carried away with that, but I think you do need to have a little bit more energy and passion when you're talking to a camera, because you're trying to convey a message, especially if you're trying to, let's be honest, be an influencer. We're influenced, Jade. You're trying to influence people and you're trying to help people and provide that. And I think what we do, I always classify as infotainment. I'm like, you can have educational content, you can have entertainment content. I think if you can pitch it somewhere in between there, where you can make people chuckle, think you're a bit goofy, give them a bit of a laugh, but at the same time they're passively learning something, and they get to the end, they're like, oh, I didn't actually know you could do that particular thing in GarageBand. I think that's, I don't know what that voice was, by the way. That was my every viewer voice. You talk like this.
Hello, we all talk like this on the internet.
Well, a lot of us do, but yeah, I think it's cool if you can do both, and if you can inspire as well, if you can make people feel good. That's why, again, you know, I have the wanky catchphrase at the end. You know, be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, and keep creating, because I think there's too much lack of kindness, and I think people are often out there. You know, they say hurt people. So there's a lot of hurt people out there trying to hurt people, and there's a lot of people that are just feeling vulnerable, and they think that the only way that they can get across and be part of the tribe is to join in and to not to mock people necessarily, but just to go, yeah, I'll just go in there and say something about other people, and then gets back and forth. And you know, the internet, people, you've been on the internet, you know what happens and how that escalates, and it can come out of little things. Well, sorry, I'm getting choked up just because I'm swallowing my coffee.
Oh, you okay? Everybody give Pete a hug.
I just think we all
Give
need
Pete
to
a hug,
get along.
quick.
Like, why can't we all just get along? Nothing worse than that. Again, as I get older, I start talking and as I get passionate, and you get the spit in your mouth, and then you're just like, this is going to have to go somewhere. And usually you're just like, the beauty of life.
It doesn't help drinking coffee. It normally drives you out more than anything.
I know, and I have water too. So
Yeah, me too.
I did say to Jade, I'm like, my energy level, I used to do shows at this time of day all the time, and give you context, at 7:30 a.m. for me here. And I used to be a real early bird when my children were young. And then as my children have grown up, they're like 12, 11 and 13 now. I have to pry them out of bed. So if I wanted to, I could sleep in till freaking 8 o'clock. They wouldn't care because if I didn't wake them up, they don't go to school. But yeah, it's harder now to get up early, and with all these time changes that are happening in the world, it's making it even more confusing because I've got no idea what time it is anywhere in the world at the moment. I'm like, yeah, my timeanddate.com is my friend right now to work out where I am and who's doing what.
It'll all be over soon.
It will.
We've got 3 more weeks and all the clocks change and we can all just go back to being normal. And speaking of normality, we have folks here in the chat. Let's say hello to a few of them and bring their names up here. Who have we got? Perpetual Platypussy. Many Vibes and Lily Pillies. Hi, Manny. And Cold Acre and Audible Video and Blue Unicorn. Hello. And Thomas Christ. If you guys want to type something in the chat, saves me scrolling. Semtex Cow, the Audible Video. I think I saw Russ, and there's the Reality. She's here as well. Who else? Tremor Bear. Dan Ekberg's down there. Oh, look, Pete Johns is down here in the chat as well. There's a big group of people, so we've got 31 people here. Thank you all for being here. I'll scroll a little, see if I can find more. Joe Glenn. I think Barry Glenn's here. Princess is driving by. Gregory O'Sullivan is here as well. Auntie G, hello. SM Borthwick. Who else do we have? Man, everyone's turned out in all of their fancy gear today. Mark Bro. Chemo okay. What's going on, my friend? I think I've got most. There's Ed Zielinski. Who else? I think I said Thomas Christ. APT Music UK, hello to you.
Dean is here.
Everyone, Hugh Caldwell, hello. Everyone is here and hanging out, so thank you for being here. Let's start talking about some stuff. So we were talking about being a bit more full on who you are on the internet, and I agree. I try to be a little bit more than what I am at home because normally I'm just wearing tracksuit pants, laying in bed, feeling sorry for myself in most days. So, yeah, you got to turn it up, but it's hard too because like when you're live streaming, as a live streamer, you're in the moment. Whatever happens on that live stream happens. There's no rewinds. So there's this. You've got your lizard brain, yeah, that does things on, and then you've got that part of your brain that's, right, don't say this, make sure your photos are all clear of any weird stuff before you go live. You've got all these things you need to check before you go on, because once you say something, I've seen so many YouTubers get cancelled or their whole YouTube channel die because of one sentence that they've said. It's really hard to do that. How do you prepare for going online each day and making sure you don't go on and say, whoops, or do like a Linus this week, Linus the tech guy who unfortunately nearly got his channel cancelled by talking about the hard R word on his stream, but he actually wasn't talking about that word. He was talking about another word, and oh my God, it was crazy. How do you prepare for that kind of thing?
Yeah, it is one of the things that you worry about. Someone actually put a comment on one of my videos because yesterday I'm always trying something new, and I was trying a little video that's like my weekly newsletter. I used to hate writing my newsletter, so I'm like, I'm going to try doing a video version. So I was walking around and just shooting that, and obviously that's pre-recorded, so it's a bit different. You don't really have to worry if I drop a few slurs in the middle of that. I can just go, whoops, delete. No one ever sees that. But live is very different because you do have to worry about exactly that. What you say, like what I just said then, someone can grab that and misinterpret that. And someone's like, oh, see, Pete Johns is just like us. Like the next thing I'll get is from white supremacists emailing me going, well, I heard what you said. I'm glad you're on our side. And I'll be like, gee, oh God, that was a deep cut interpretation. So yeah, I guess the way I do it is practice, and practice makes progress. I like to say that. And I know Leela, our friend Lou Reality, has a show called Practice Makes Progress. Brad, example, made a t-shirt. A lot of us sort of work on this, and just doing it, it's a muscle memory thing, isn't it? So the more you do it, the easier it is and the better you can do it. And you realize, I learned early on that sometimes my mouth would go faster than my brain, and that's where you can get into trouble. And I also realized that I talked really fast. So I thought that any gap in speech was going to be a problem. Whereas now I've worked out that a pause like that one, that's half a second, is not actually that bad. When you listen back to it for a viewer, it can actually work well. So sometimes saying nothing is the best strategy. And if you have to have a pause of 1, 2, 3 seconds while you gather your thoughts and work out how to respond to a comment or respond to something that's happened or what you need to say about something, I think that's the way to go. And I think every time I've seen, not every time, but a vast majority of times I've seen someone go off on tangents and get cancelled or have problems is where they've been on a roll and they haven't stopped and considered and thought about it, or they've reacted, like you said before, the lizard brain, the fight or flight. So there's some people that if something bad happens on their stream, they'll just be like, tools down, I give up, this is all just crap, and they just close it and it's like, oh, what happened to the stream? They're not. And other people will go the fight, which is probably the more dangerous one, because again, sometimes it's what you say, not what you don't say, that's going to land you into trouble. So yeah, it is. It's a hard thing to do. And I think the older I get, the calmer I get, and the less likely that I react to things. And it's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes I'm biting my tongue so hard that I get up the end of a stream and I'm got to go out and spit out my blood. No, not really. But that's a bad analogy. Yeah. You do, because again, and it could be the most innocent comment, because again, I'm interpreting what people are typing in the chat, which may be something innocent that doesn't even mean anything, and then I can take offense to that, and then that's all I can think of, and then I've lost my train of thought, and then I think I'm not good enough, and then I get imposter syndrome, and then the whole stream goes to crap. So yeah, it is a slippery slope. My advice to people is to practice and to do it in an environment. People don't realize you can live stream to no one. If you saw the amount of streams that I did, it was 10, 20, 30 hours before I ever hit go live publicly. And that was just to get that muscle memory of how do you speak? How do you make sure that you don't go off track? How do you stay focused and on topic? And yeah, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. And thank you, Alex Backus, for the super chat while you were chatting there. And if you guys want a super chat, please do. We are celebrating 100 interviews today. It's been a long journey. We're going to go through who some of those interviews were a little bit later. For me, when I started doing this, I had experience doing stand-up and playing live for so many years. It was really natural to sit here and talk, but I know that I can say things that go down the wrong path. But it's been really hard to reel that in. Not so much hard, just you've got to think about it all the time, constantly think. And I agree with you. Having a pause, I used to think when I started this channel, keep it talking all the time, even while you're showing the app, keep talking, keep filling the space. But it's not always the way, because now that I'm doing shorts and stuff too, I'm taking those videos down each day and chopping bits up. And I'm really thankful for the pauses, because it's like, hey, I didn't say anything stupid, and there's a pause for me to cut the video. I know I get myself into trouble all the time. I always have, saying stupid things. It's part of my MO. It just has been. Thank you again, Alex.
Alex, yeah, and I think, again, not to go too far down a track and off of the musical thing, but I've said this before to you, and I say this quite often, is I think because people get very up in their business about freedom of speech and about I'm free to say and do whatever I want, and that's just me. I call a spade, and that's all good. And I support and agree with that to an extent, as long as it's not hateful or targeting anyone. But at the same time, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing with a lot of these live streamers that are getting into trouble, is that some of them, I don't think Linus is one, because Linus seems like a good dude from what I've seen of him, but I think some people are just like, well, no, it's my right to be able to say that. I'm like, 100%, absolutely. It's also my right to call you out on it and call you a whatever word I want to and never watch you again or complain about the things that you've said. So yeah, it's kind of like that double standard thing I was saying before, that the people that want the most amount of freedom seem to want to remove other people's freedom of opinion to think that they're a dick.
Yeah, absolutely. I grappled a lot. Like, you released your song, which we opened the show with, and I released a song this week as well called The Gospel of Hate. And trust me, I grappled a lot with this song because, like with my band Kindercore, I try and touch on subjects that nobody will. The first song was about human trafficking. Second song was about animal cruelty. And this one's about evangelicals and their hatred and their greed. And, as I was recording it, I was like, oh, man, I was doing it live on the channel just thinking, I'm sure I'm possibly offending somebody, but I kept trying to say, I don't care what you believe in. Have at it. Have your faith. Have your religion. Have all that stuff. But once you start hating other people for it, I think you're in the wrong club. So releasing the song, I think it needs to. We need to talk about this because, and I tried to make it very clear in the lyrics that it is about the greed of these people and how they use that greed to manipulate people to hate other people. They're lining their pockets through hate. They're not preaching love.
Yeah, and there is a massive difference there between, and I'm the same. Like I don't care if you're red, blue, left, right, religious, atheist. None of that actually has an impact on your ability to be kind to other people and to be kind to yourself, except for the fact that unfortunately some people choose to either go down a self-sabotage, self-hate path because of their beliefs or because of their alleged beliefs, or they flip it around and they do it to other people. And neither of those are good, and they're probably just as destructive, and they usually go hand in hand. So a lot of the hatred of other people and a lot of people that are preaching hate is because they hate themselves or because they've been raised in an environment where hate was part of their daily life. And that's really sad. And unfortunately, to bring it back to sort of music and community, you and I are part of a lot of Facebook groups and Discord servers and all sorts of places where people gather and talk about music. And there can be differences of opinion on those things. And there can be people that are sharing some of their opinions, whether it's about the fact that they are going through struggles and going through hard times, or the fact that they're picking on other people and bullying. And whilst that's really sad, and while I think that those people need to get help, and there is help out there for them, it's not in a music forum. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but if someone comes in and starts talking about their own personal struggles and battles and things, look, put it in a song and share that with the group by all means. But as soon as you take it away from that and you start pushing it out there, it's not what it's for. I'm not a professional counselor. I can't help you with that right now. All I'm going to say is, you need to speak to a professional, you need to get some help because you're obviously struggling with something. And I think that's the sad reality, is that people use these forums for things that they're not designed for. And that's where I see things going astray in the Facebook groups and in the ones that don't work, the ones that have great moderation teams like you and me and all the cool people. I mean, we just go, right, you're out. And it's a one strike and you're out thing. And you'll know this from other things, like we've chatted about this before. When people show their stripes and their true colors, it goes downhill from there. I've never come across one where we've given someone a warning and said, oh, you really shouldn't call that person a giant dickhead just because they shared a song that you don't like the genre of. And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry, man, whatever happened again. Of course it does. It happens again and again and again. And eventually it's like, man, that's a real waste of time. So as harsh as it may sound, you know it, I know it, and probably 99% of people watching this know it. The 1% that are like, no, I think you're wrong, Johns, are probably the 1% we're talking about.
Yep, absolutely. Let me bring this camera back here. Thank you, Lily Pillies, also for a super chat. And who else did one? And Welton Kinder. Hello, Welton Kinder. And hello to anybody who's joined who I may have missed. Patrick from the Garage Band Guide and Guzzo of Oz. And there's Many Vibes and a few other, Michael Thompson. Welcome aboard, folks.
You've got a doctor in here as well, by the way. In case you do need to talk to someone, who do you talk to?
We talk to
Doctor's orders.
Right.
Still got it on hand as always. So we've been speaking about this topic, and I'm going to play my track because we opened with your track because we both released music this week with today's sponsor, and we'll talk about them straight after this. Segway. So, folks, chill out for a second. It only goes for 3 minutes. This is Kindercore, just released. Gospel of Hate. Let's do it. Boom.
Rock on.
They preach to
judgment here in the book of Romans that they are worthy of death. These people should be put to death. Every single homosexual in our country should be charged with the crime, the abomination of homosexuality that they have. They should be convicted in a lawful trial, put to death. They should be sentenced to death. They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head.
Shot in the back of the head.
That's what God teaches. These people should be put to death. They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. That's what God teaches. That's what the Bible says. If you don't like it, don't like God's word. That is what God says.
Don't care about your soul. All they care about is your body. They don't care if you live or die. All in the gospel of earth.
For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now.
Da banda 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 raka rika boka zaka deka boka deka deka whatever the fuck she's talking about. It's weird. All right, that was that song. That was really fun to get out and get done. And both of us released tracks this week through today's sponsor, which is, of course, DistroKid. Boom. Now,
It looks different, Jade.
I know there's something looking different here with DistroKid. Let's talk about it. So, if you didn't know, DistroKid are an amazing distributor who release all your music to all of the major platforms on the planet, including all the major ones, plus many that you would never have even heard of, plus all of the social media networks like Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram, as well as Apple and Spotify and all the big players, of course. But they do it for an incredibly low price. And as you may have noticed here, that price, after how many years, has changed.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is-
I think 6 years I've been using DistroKid. It's been the same price. I've been through a global pandemic and a global recession and still managed to keep the same price somehow.
It's interesting, because like everything else in the world has gone up. Everything, yogurt, bread, eggs. You can't even get eggs in the US, right? Toilet paper, you can't even get on the shelves still for some reason. But DistroKid seems to be the last one that put their prices up. So, yeah. And they haven't gone up too much. So that's the good news. So $22.99 per year. And these are, from what I know, Pete, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you can help me out. This is for new subscribers. At this point, I do believe.
Yeah, so we haven't been advised of updates to pricing plans for existing subscribers at this stage. Like, don't rule it out, because as you know, your Netflix and your Disney Plus and your Hulus and all your subscription services are going up. And look, it's the unprecedented, which is the word people are using, inflation and things going on at the moment. So watch this space for that. But yeah, if you're signing up today, it's gone from $19.99 to $22.99, which I know, look, we are both sponsored by DistroKid, so full disclosure on that. But
absolutely.
Pretty ridiculous price for unlimited uploading. And I'm glad they didn't do what other things are doing, which is, what do they call it, where they charge the same price but they give you less. So they could have said, we're going to take 10% of your royalties, or we're going to limit you to 10 releases a year, or some other limitation. Haven't changed anything about any of the plans. They've just had, the cost of living for them, like everyone else, has increased, and that's what happens. Prices do go up, but I think it's still a ridiculous deal, and especially if, like, under $40 for the Musician Plus plan. That's the one I use, and that is just ridiculously cool.
Absolutely, and it's broken down here. It's $1.92 a month, really, to have all your music up there with, next to all the amazing popular artists. That's what I love the most. I don't really care if I make money releasing music. To know that my music is up there with like Metallica and everyone, and you can find it in the same place. That to me is absolutely freaking huge. I've been a member of DistroKid way before they sponsored me here on the show, and so I was already got to do it, in love with DistroKid. So yes, everyone knows me and DistroKid are having a relationship. I'm in love with DistroKid. I want to have their babies. So that just is what it is. So it has gone up. But if you use my code, which is down in the description, distrokid.com/VIP/Jade you'll still get 7% off if you are a new subscriber for the first year. So remember that. There are 2 other plans. They have gone up as well. You're looking at $39.99 annually for the Musicians Plus, where you get 2 artists and a bunch of extra things. Or if you're a record label or you're just like me and release too much music under too many different names, you go for the ultimate one, which is what I use, and that is now $89.99. So I think a lot of people aren't going to complain too much. I know I wasn't shocked when it happened, so yeah.
No, and look, there will be, because it's the internet, so there will be people that are saying that, another cash grab, and they're just. But the thing is, if you look at that, and I've made my first DistroKid video 4 years ago, and the only challenge I have now is that I say 1999 in a lot of my videos, so they're a little outdated, but that's okay. I said to Jade, I'm like, I'll just have to remake every DistroKid video I've ever made. So prepare for that, folks.
More content.
Month of DistroKid, because I'm going to be updating with everything. But they're doing really well, and another big change for DistroKid that's happened. That's a really positive one as well, which you're probably we'll talk about at some stage throughout the show.
We're going to lead into that next, because I think it's great that it happened on the same day the prices went up. But firstly, I want to thank DistroKid. So thank you for your ongoing sponsorship of this show. Love you so much. It really does help. So love you, DistroKid, very much. Go release your music, folks. Go and do it.
Zero excuse.
It'll make everybody happy. I just want to address this. Chem K put in the chat that he'd like to put some codes in the chat for some of his apps to celebrate the 100th episode. Sure, Chem, if you would like to do that, have at it, my friend. That's really awesome. You rock. Chem's been a really fantastic supporter of the channel. He's been interviewed on here. He gives me heaps of codes to give away on the Patreon, and he makes some really fantastic apps. So thank you, Chem.
Is that going to be a scramble now? Is he going to post a code and then everyone's have to see who gets in first into their app store?
Awesome. So a bit of chaos in the chat to keep people occupied while we talk a load of nonsense.
I don't do giveaways. Oh, like one person really happy and about 20 people were really pissed. No, it's going to be great. It's going to work fine.
As long as I don't have to deal with it, I'm all good. It's all in the chat. Tom's the head moderator. He can handle it. Good luck, Thomas. No, but thank you, Chem.
Hey, Tom. Oh, wait, we don't pay you. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Tom. Check's in the mail still, Tom. It's coming. I swear to God, it's coming. But let's talk about this, because they upped the price to DistroKid, but at the same time, they dropped an app.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can find it, here it is. They dropped, finally, the DistroKid app. It is now available on the App Store. Oh, I'm not logged in. Of course I'm not.
Of course. Yes. While Jade sides in there, so Jade and I have been beta testing this for some time now, and every time I talk to our friends at DistroKid, I'm like, "App nearly done." He's like, "Get there." It's been, and it's been working for a long time. I released a song using the app about 6 months ago, and it worked flawlessly. So I've obviously just been double and triple checking to make sure everything's working fine, and it's really cool because it's full function. Everything that you can do on the website, you can do through the app now. And I know some people, the critical way of looking at this would be to say, oh, about time you got an app. But a lot of these distributors, because the music biz has been so desktop focused for so long, and mobile creators have kind of been a second class citizen for a while, it hasn't been worth it for the distributors. They're now finding a lot of people are making music on their mobile devices, and they need an app to be able to release. So kudos to DistroKid for getting it out there, and I'm looking forward. My next song I'm going to release through the official app. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, I already did a show on it using the app while it was in beta. I got permission to do that, and it uploaded fine. So I think the other thing too people forget is, look, there's 2 ways you can go about releasing an app, and Chem's here. He's a developer. He knows as much as anybody. Releasing an app, it takes a lot to create an app, beta test an app, and make sure the app works. There's nothing worse than releasing an app out to the public and it doesn't work, and then all the reviews hit the App Store, and because people don't go to the developer, and Chem will attest to this, they don't aim their emails at the developer, they go to Apple's App Store and leave a review saying this sucks, and you can't get rid of those reviews. So there's a reason DistroKid had this in beta for so long. They want to make it work. They want you're paying that measly amount to release music, and they want this to work for you.
Yeah, and it's related to when you're releasing your music, you want to do the whole measure twice, cut once thing as well. So make sure that everything's working and everything's correct. Because again, the amount of emails I get and messages and comments about, I just released my thing, but I uploaded the wrong audio file, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Sometimes you grab the wrong file, or sometimes you do something, but yeah, I implore folks when you're releasing, don't lose, don't go grey and have your hair drop out about it, but really focus in on getting it right the first time. It's so much easier than going back and having to fix something.
Absolutely. And like the one thing I'm hoping will change as we go on, when you open up on an iPad, it opens in an iPhone screen. Hopefully they'll do a iPad version. Hopefully that happens. It's really just stretching the assets and all that kind of stuff. So it's possible to do with an update. But if you want to go back and see, I have released a song using it when it was in beta, so it's working. You can release songs with it. You can check your bank. You can check your stats. You've got settings. It's pretty, simple. There's nothing too complicated with it, which is clever. I'm glad they didn't stock it up with all the extras of making videos and all the great, extras and add-ons that you do get with DistroKid. So that probably would have bogged it down and made it more chance to fuck up.
I like it simple. I'm a simple man. I like simple things. So yeah, I like that it's easy to do because again, DistroKid's interesting because they have a lot of things. It reminds me of Texas Hold'em poker for those that like to play poker. It's like they say that it's a game that takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. I think when it comes to music releasing, you can get a song out there. If you've got a piece of album artwork and you've got a song file, you can release through DistroKid in about 10 minutes, or I would say 20 minutes just because you want to double check it. But there's so much under the hood there that you can play around with if you've got the time and the inclination of all the different add-ons, all the video services, the wheel of playlist and everything in between that you can really dig in and explore. They've got splits there. I know other distributors are only just like DistroKid are just ahead of the curve. A lot of other distributors are just about adding things, and DistroKid have had these things for like 2 and 3 years. Like we've been doing splits for 2 years on a lot of our songs because they just put it in place, and they're adding things and they're trying things. So they're keeping their core. They're like the 80-20. They're old Google. So when Google used to be cool before they became Alphabet and money-hungry grubbers like everyone else, they used to have an 80-20 rule where every employee at Google spent 80% of their time on just making sure their core fundamental, like when you open Gmail should just freaking open and you should be able to use it. You need people to make sure that that's the case. But the 20% was trying these new things, and they had some spectacular failures like Plus. But they had some spectacularly good things like Google Drive. So those are the things that come out of you having this 20% that you can have. And I think DistroKid must do something similar because they come out with some wacky stuff. The friggin' Marcel the Monkey video, the Friends thing that you can put your song to. I mean, that's bizarre and it's not going to be for everyone, but they tried it, and they're trying things all the time, and some of them will stick and some of them won't. But you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So get out there and release your music. Be like DistroKid, experiment, get music out there and see what happens.
This is a bit of a tangent, but do you know one of the best things I've got from DistroKid is their bloody toenail clippers. I'm telling you, man, I've owned so many pairs of nail clippers in my life, and they always break so quickly. These things are next to my bed and they are the best clippers I've ever owned. And it's a joke, you look at their website and go, nail clippers? What? I am telling you, man, these things are the best nail clippers you will ever get. So if you've got like a grandma or a parent, you're looking for something for Christmas or a birthday, seriously, go buy them some DistroKid toenail clippers from the website.
They get a lot of use around here as well. I know that whenever I need a pair of toenail clippers, they're just around, and it's the most bizarre thing. But it just I know it sounds like a DistroKid love fest because it is, but
it is.
They're the sort of company I like. People like that, and I like companies like that. I like companies that don't take themselves too seriously. Working with DistroKid for 4 years, they like to have fun. You can tell they're passionate about what they do. and it just works for them. They're quirky and they're different and they're not mainstream, and that's good. So, DistroKid, never change, man, never change.
Absolutely. And Thomas has put the link to the DistroKid toenail clippers in the chat. Thanks,
Grab
Thomas.
your pair today.
Get them now. They're going hot. All right. We're talking about releasing music. I got a couple of subjects to talk about. Let's start with this one. Overproducing music.
Oh,
It's something I don't see you do. So you're safe.
I underproduce.
You're safe. What are your thoughts on it? Because I do see there's seems to be two spectrums. There's people who underproduce stuff, and I think underproducing is the way to go. I think you can. My opinion has changed over the years of producing music. I learnt from going into actual recording studios from engineers where they'd take my songs and we'd record them, and then they'd say, "Great, that's done. Now let's delete all of this." And I learned that the hard way. It was a real tough pill to swallow. So there's either people who are already underproducing, which is less is more is always the way to go, in my opinion. And some of the biggest songs in the world, less is more has been why they're successful. Or there's people who overproduce and just pile so much stuff in that it just becomes a mess. How do you get people to learn to take stuff away, Pete? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, so I guess when I think of overproducing, like I guess there's two definitions of it. So one is that you're spending too much time producing one particular song and you're obsessing about it, and then there's I'm just getting out so much music because I'm just producing so much music and putting it out there. So regardless of which one we're talking about, it can be a problem and it can be a challenge, and it's hard to balance out that between. Because I say, again, like I said before, take your shots. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I think you should be creating and releasing music. But I guess it doesn't. It loses its specialness. I know you and I have talked about this sometimes, that when you have a new song every week or every couple of weeks, how do you actually let that sit with people? And how do you let people discover that and find that? Because by the time they've come and found your music, then they're finding your next piece of music. And that, look, again, that is cool if you want to create that, if you're learning, if that's the process. But I think most creators get to a point where they know two things. They know when they're individually overproducing a song, and they know the level that they need to get to, because trying to go for perfection is hard. But they also know that sometimes you leave something on the cutting room floor. Sometimes something you get most of the way through, and then you're like, actually, no, this isn't quite working for me. I'm going to rinse and repeat and try something different. So I think that I want to make sure that people know that creating music and creating lots of music is absolutely fine. Not all of it has to actually be shared. And I know that goes against my whole record release thing, but maybe just share it internally and say, hey, here's a demo that I did. This is what worked out. And then even though DistroKid give you the convenience of releasing unlimited amount of music, doesn't mean you have to. Doesn't mean if the thing you put together, and I don't know what you've found, but it's younger producers seem to suffer more from wanting to get so much music out. They just want to pump it out and they want to just finish it and get it done and move on to the next thing. And I don't know if that's an attention span thing. And older producers tend to be the ones that are more picky and sit on stuff and have 100 different 80% finished projects because they just never satisfied and never want to put the finishing touches on it. And that's a complete generalization, because there's probably people in both camps that flip around. But I think if you're either of those, you might just need to talk to some folks or see what other people are doing and get some advice about how you can find the balance, because like everything in life, it's a balance. And you just need to be, in my opinion, you need to be somewhere in between where you're putting enough effort in to be proud of what you're putting out there, but you're not obsessing about it and losing sleep over it not being perfect.
Yeah, look, I agree. I've come from the school of paying your dues as a kid and doing gigs and going into rehearsal studios, recording studios. And, I've said this on the channel before. I remember 1 year in my band, we did like 200 and something gigs in a year, and it didn't work. And then the next year we tried something totally different, and we did like 20 gigs for the whole year. And we got so much better crowds, much more money, and we created that false scarcity that this is special. And I think what I see a lot, especially around YouTube, and I'm not singling people out or attacking anybody over this, is that, if you're constantly releasing stuff all the time, and you've got like a couple of songs a week or a song every week, people aren't getting the chance to really take in the last song that you did. You know what I mean? Like people, and especially us too, us oldies. We're not like the youngsters who have the attention span of a gnat. So, you know, taking that stuff in and listening to listening to it for like, you know, a couple of weeks and creating that whole, you know, oh, this is special. This song's coming out. Like this is actually something to get around and you know, be excited about instead of bang, 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 bang. And I don't know what it is that, you know, maybe it's because we have so many shows playing people's music and there's that need to be filled to have shows filled up with music. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything like that, but people feel like they might become irrelevant if they don't have something out that week, you know, because people forget really quickly.
Yeah. And again, it's you do you at the end of the day.
Of
If
course.
it's good for you, and if that's what you want to do, then I've got no problem with that whatsoever. And there are some really good creators in the community that have the knack to be able to put stuff out that is quality and do it on a regular basis. And I don't know that if they spent 5 times as much or 10 times as much time on each song, if it would work better. And maybe you do a Thomas Christ, because Thomas Christ is a prolific creator, but the way Thomas does his stuff is he puts an album worth of stuff together and he actually puts out albums. And when Thomas Christ launches a new album, even though he does so many of them, like one a year, which I think is a lot, but it's always an event and it's always special and exciting. And the individual song releases he does maybe once a month, they also have a level of excitement around them too, because they're not once every 4 days or 5 days. Like there is something there. And I think Thomas does a good thing at the moment too. And we can talk about this later as well if it's relevant. But going back to some of your old projects and revisiting them can often be interesting. And that maybe if you really want to share something about music, maybe you start sharing some of the older projects as well and revisiting things. It's not always the best thing to do. It's not always perfect, but it can be interesting. You can learn. You can go, oh, I did things this way then. I've got new techniques. I've got new things I've learned in the last year or 2 years or 5 years. What if I apply some of them to this? What's that going to do? It's almost like collaborating with your past self. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And Kim says here, hi, Kim, you can't make a comeback if you never became irrelevant, which is true. Hi, Falcro. Welcome aboard to you as well. And speaking of that, going back and revisiting things, I reached out to you this week because I was trolling through YouTube like I do. I hit the refresh button or too many times a day on YouTube, and up popped one of your songs. And I was like, man, this is such a good song. And did this really get the praise it deserves, this song, or did this one slip under the radar? Because I don't remember it. Maybe it's just my shitty memory, but this one just kind of seemed like it slipped by. And it's one of those songs, every time I hear it, I go, man, that's a good song. And I reached out to you and said, do you have the project for this? And you pretty much said, I don't know.
Well, look, typed in. Oh, look, I do.
And you sent it to me, and I'm going to try and mess about with it and rejig some drums and try some things to make it a little bit different, because I don't know, it's just one of those songs I've always loved, and I wanted to do something for it. So again, this is a cool thing to do. And that song, what is this song called?
Wasting Time.
It is too. Let's play a bit of it.
Very, very relevant to you and me.
Yeah, let's play a bit of it. So you sent me the project.
The smell of frustration, the sound of your voice, the feeling I've been here before. If silence is golden, then why are you loud? Don't take all of my time, I don't have much left for you. So don't take all of my time, I don't have much of it left for you.
Man, it's such a good song, Pete.
It's one of my favorites to play. It's my attempt at fingerstyle, because I am notoriously bad at fingerstyle guitar. So I think that guitar took me about 27 takes to get one that I'm happy with, which is why the song, of all the songs I've done, was probably rushed and just pushed out, because I'm just like, I am so, you get to that point of a song, I'm so sick of playing this song and hearing this song. But Yeah, it was
There's
actually
not a lot of comping on it.
No, no. Well, it was. I think it was literally just that I wanted to. I think there's what 3 parts in that. So I think I just pulled together 3 guitar takes, and that was it. So it all came together. But yeah, it was for the Song Spark group. Shout out to the folks over at Song Spark. But yeah, that it was a song about the senses. So that's why it's the smell of frustration, the sound of your voice, the feeling. So I was trying to use the 5 senses within the songwriting to actually create that mood. And yeah, it's one of my favorite songs to play because it's a topic that doesn't get a lot of traction, which is that I know that there are people in need, whether it's through physical health, mental health, or addiction. But the people that have to support and help those people often don't get the kudos and the support that they need because it's bloody hard work. You're basically living through that through someone else, but you don't have any power or control. You're just trying to influence someone in the right direction and to be positive and to look on the bright side. And it is tough for anyone that's ever been around people that have been struggling with, again, with mental, physical health or with addiction. It's tough, and the helpers don't get what they need. So yeah, to me, it's an important song because I like the message of it. It's probably behind anxiety. It's probably the song that people discover, and I get the most people reach out and go, oh yeah, I actually really dig that because you listen, it's like an onion, the layers down below. I'm just like, yeah, I've been that person. I know exactly what you're saying. So yeah, it's cool. And when you reached out, I'm like, yeah, let's see what you do with it. Don't you ruin it. Oh, it's important.
Oh, I'll ruin it. You watch. I'll turn it into a death metal song.
Time. Fuck you! Don't waste my time.
But you are right. A lot of this. I've mentioned this on the channel before. I was a volunteer for 9 years for people with HIV dementia, and it's a fantastic organisation in Sydney called Ankali, where you volunteer your time. They put you through I think it's about 2 weekends of training. You learn about HIV, dementia, so you get a crash course and that kind of stuff, and then they match you with someone who's kind of similar to your beliefs and your kind of interests and stuff. And I did that for 9 years, and each week, and I had 3 different people, and 2 of them died. And it's an incredibly tough thing to do. And I think people forget that the carers or people who are in that kind of role need time away. You need to take because that shit will end up putting you in a coffin for doing it. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do, but you really need to understand and be clear in your head when to take a break, when to walk away, or you'll end up a basket case. So my heart always goes out to anybody who's doing that kind of stuff and looking out for people. I wish there were services like that here in Melbourne. You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Yeah, there's so many good people and there's so many good services. Like, there should be more, but again, it's hard. Even here in Australia, where we have less, I guess, of a care system and charity system and health system that's broken, as it is in some other countries that shall remain nameless. But it's still hard. Like, it still can be challenging to do that. But I guess all that we can really do is be empathetic or sympathetic. I forget which one it is. The one where you can think about people where you haven't actually been through it. But I wake up, I must admit, like yesterday morning, I woke up and my lot in life is that I have a preteen and teenage child, and I have to get up. And I actually stopped and thought about it and was starting to get a little bit pissy about I'm just like, these people that don't have kids don't understand, see? Like, they just get up and they go about their day and they only have to worry about themselves. And I've got to worry about these other 2 humans and get them out of bed and get them motivated, get them to school and get them breakfast and then I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, what about parents with special needs kids? What about a parent who are looking after a parent with dementia? What about people who are single parents with 4 children, not double parents, double income with 2 children? So yeah, I think some perspective is required there, and that's sort of what I like to put out in the world. Is not to say that everyone should think like I do and that my opinion is better than everyone else's, because it's not. It's just my experience and my opinion. But I think sometimes when we have what I like to call a plom party, a poor little old me party, we're having a plom party with ourselves. Yeah, if you look sideways and you look around long enough, there's someone that's struggling a bit more than you. Not to say that you're not allowed to have your little plom party. Like we said, if you're a carer, you just need to have some me time, some personal time to just do what you need to do, then do it. And don't feel guilty about it, because that's the other thing. A lot of people that have a lot of commitments, when you're not doing that one thing, you're feeling guilty about it instead of refreshing, relaxing, and getting your mind back into a state where you can attack it again. So Again, I don't mean to get deep and meaningful, but we go off on tangents and these sort of things. And I think it's important stuff for creative folks because a lot of you out there are probably going through the same sort of thought processes or have the same sort of challenges, and you're not alone. That's the number one thing I like to say.
Absolutely. And if you guys have been struggling or anything like that, not that, I'm going to get you through or anything, there is a playlist on this channel called the Wart series where I think there's 19 episodes where I've covered over the time of doing this channel depression, anxiety, there's so many subjects. And so go and check out those videos because you may find something in there that may help. We've talked about friendships. There's so much stuff we've covered on those Wart episodes, which will be coming back soon as well. Speaking about interviews and things that we've done on the channel, I thought I would bring this up because I thought it would be interesting. Why do I have Pete here on the show today? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the very first interview that I did on this channel was with Pete. It was, let me bring up here. Yes, so it was called An Imperfectly Perfect Interview with Pete Johns. And today's interview is called The Perfectly Imperfect Interview with Pete Johns. So we had a little reversal there. But you were my first person who I had on here. I had no idea I was going to get this deep into doing interviews. I think there was actually the third episode on the channel. So I really had no idea we'd be doing it. And since then, man, we've had some amazing people on this show. Too many. Well, I'm going to go through some of them. I'm going to bring up the screen here. Look at all these people we've had on here. So we've got, there's Pete and Dan Baker. We've got Ron Ward, Thomas Gillane, Joey Helpish, Brian Bigler, Mike Enjo, Iota, Adam Glynn, Satish Robertson, Jacob Hack, Samantha Edge, Yale Aiden, The Indigo Sunset, Stephen K. Amos, Gary Hubbs, Riley Perry, Glenn Clark, Lewis Roges, Thomas Christ, Jordan Rudess. Man, that was a big one for me. Panaki Deb, Patrick Baird, who's here as well. Maze End Music, Heinbach, we've got Metalhead Hippie, Auntie G, Lady Rodeline, Josephine DeSmet, Darren Daniluk, Russ8889, Erica Miner, Hetriani, Laurie Bravo, Capsalam, Marcus Manderson, Jendine Forber. Look at all these. This is so star-studded. Brad Example's been on here twice. Cy Effin, Jamie Mallender, Chandler Brothers, Tim Roberts, Darren Anderson, John Kell, Kim Harden Hudson, Joe and Barry Glenn, Matt Seven, SM Borthwick, Dwight Bailey, Night Train, Ryan Robinson. We've got Yeli Savetta, Nikki Tedesco, Kev Hart, Marshall Turner, Michael Tyson, Laurie's Mishmosh, Mark Tanner, Venus to Mars, Naya Medved, Vortex, of course, Mobile Music Pro, Black Covers, Matt Anderson, Happy Ron, the Lily Pillies, the Delicate Giants. Who else do we have? Christian Bishop, Brad Example again, Welton Kinder, Lou Reality, Jack Flash, Georgie Johns, even your wife, Pete. It's awesome. Even your wife's been on here. Next, we just need your mum on here. We've had Russ's mum, Tom Caraher, Bubba, Chem OK, Riley DC, Mark Trail, Valerie Butt, Ron and Jenny from Wolfstone, G May, Ian Luckett, TJ Zindel, James Timms, Frank Terzo, JDL, PA, Chris Lane Sr., Jonathan Bell, Robin Cheyenne, Falcon Blueser, Billy Gould from Faith No More, Mr. Smith, Russ's mum, Dot, John Paul Music UK, Jamie McKinney, McElhinney, said it wrong again, Audible Video, and you.
What a star-studded cast of crazy characters.
Incredible. I am totally blown away that I get to do this every week and have people on here and pick people's brains. And, you know, there's been so many times I've had people on here, Pete, where I don't, you know, this show hasn't planned. We're both so unorganized for this show, but my interviews are always unorganized as well. So whatever happens, happens. And there's been so many interviews where people have just trusted me to divulge shit that is really heavy. And I feel very privileged to sit here and have people trust me doing that. you know, I don't watch a lot of interviews where I see that. So many interviews I see on YouTube are so bland.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm a big fan of interviews, but it's got to be a good interviewer, and for the same reason that I love autobiographies. So if you look through my Audible, because again, I don't read. My daughter was saying that the other day. I said, oh, I was reading this book, and she's like, "Were you really reading it, Dad, or were you listening to it?" I'm like, same thing. I like to read autobiographies because everyone is so different, but it's rare that I either listen to a whole autobiography or listen to a whole interview and you don't pick up at least one or two things where you're like, oh, that's a really interesting insight, or oh, that person's experience is similar to mine and they did this, so that's something I can learn from. So I think, again, it comes back to the infotainment thing. I think that when you're interviewing someone, every one of those people who I know, and look, I know 70-80% of those folks that you've mentioned there, or at least talked to or communicated with in some way, and they run the gamut. There's people that are hyper introverts that you've managed to get to convince to get on the show. There's people that probably asked you 7 times before you finally went, okay, fine, you can come on the friggin' show.
No, that actually hasn't happened, Pete.
Oh,
Normally when people ask, deleted.
Gone.
It's true. Like if you ask to come on, you're going to the way to the bottom.
Back of the list. Yeah. But yeah, you got like very introverted people, very extroverted people, I guess, that would potentially do that, but have hopefully waited their turn. And everyone in between. And I think that it is really good because you'll see bits of yourself, but you'll also be challenged on some things. And I've definitely watched some of the interviews that you've done, and it has. I've listened in on what people have had to say, and they've potentially challenged my view. And in a world where it's easy to put yourself into a vacuum of same thinkers and same opinion people, I think it's important to have that diversity of opinion and that diversity of experience, because I like to say that everything outside of facts is your opinion or your experience. And we can only really go on our experience, which is what we've seen, what we've heard, what we've felt, what we've smelt, all of our senses, and then what our opinion is. So I've collected all this information and therefore I've concluded this. And everything else is just BS. So I like it because you get to hear other people's opinions. You get to hear what other people's experience has been like. And again, it can entertain, but it can also inform. And sometimes you have a laugh as well along the way.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite times of the week. And everybody who's been on the show, I do let them know during the show that before the show, that if you say something and that thread's left hanging, I'm going to pull it. So, again, be careful what you say because it's going to lead down. If you've opened a small door, I'm going to pull on it. And I think with a lot of interviews, I see that a lot of people don't listen to their guests. I see it all the time because what it tends to be is the people who are interviewing are creators themselves, and they're very set in that me and my product and me, and they're so used to doing that when they have somebody on, that overrides the interview and they sit there and kind of don't listen, or they don't give the guest time to talk and just sit back. There's been times where I've had guests on and I've put the camera on like I have on you now, and I've just sat back and muted myself and just let them talk. And I've had some people talk for 5 minutes straight, and that's what it's about because it's their moment. It's not my moment. It's time for. I want people to shine in the 2 hours that they come on here.
Yeah, and it's relevant to everything that I know you and I talk about and that I kind of ramble on about, which is that the biggest challenge I see folks have with social media and with media in general is that they treat it like it's a one-way medium. They treat it like it's just pushing their stuff out there, and they don't. You got to listen first to understand before you can speak. And it's the same with social media, is that if you don't understand what other people are doing, if you don't understand like you've seen it, people come into these chats, people come into your video comments, and they'll just start saying things. They'll start making comments without reading the room. And it's like if you walked into a party, you're just like, where's the keg at? Let me fill up my cup. Before you realize you're like, this is actually a Bible study group, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. So reading the room and understanding what it's like in that community. And you don't have to, you can very quickly work out what's going on. I'm not saying that you have to tiptoe around people and never be involved, but yeah, when you jump in there without knowing, and it's the same as you were saying about interviewers, is that some people are like, the only pauses are them waiting for their opportunity to say something else, and they're not giving that opportunity for someone else to speak. And they're the sort of folks that unfortunately don't often learn things and don't often change and evolve their views and opinions because they spend too much time saying what their opinion is rather than listening to other people's opinion. Oh, I've lost my.
Oops, it's my fault. I lost you. 1 second. There you are. Where'd you go?
See.
You went into a.
It's
There you are.
that was actually QAnon. They thought I was going to start sprouting off about how their opinions are wrong, and so they thought we'll preempt this guy and we'll just turn off his camera.
See, it's because of this. See, to actually capture you with OBS, I have to look at this. Now I'm doing a Ron Ward. There's millions of us on the screen. We've done a Ron Ward. No, but I have to capture the Zoom screen to actually be able to have you on here. So I accidentally closed Zoom.
That's less than ideal. The funniest thing that I've ever seen and heard on this channel is, and I can't remember exactly what you were on Ron's channel. Was it you and Leela? It was like a ladies' night thing. That he was doing. And he wasn't really supposed to be on there, but he was obviously running the show. And the show started, and it was just his screen, and there was like tiny little images of you, and then just this giant screen with all the options for what does he use? He doesn't use OBS. He uses the other one, the Mac one, doesn't he?
Yeah. I forget what it's called too. Yeah,
it was just the funniest thing, and then just like the first 10 minutes was just troubleshooting with Ron and trying to get things up and running. So I do like that, and that's the way. Again, to get back to sort of what we're talking about before, that's the way you should treat life, is to just enjoy it and realize that it's going to be chaotic and that sometimes things are going to go wrong. And look, it's not always going to feel great in the moment, but people will feed off of that. So if something goes wrong and you get angry about it during a live stream, people will feed off that energy. Whereas if something goes wrong and you roll with the punches and you have a laugh and you have a joke and you're like, yeah, this is what live is, people. Sometimes it's a well-oiled machine and sometimes it's a car crash. So either way, sit back and enjoy, because you never quite know what's going to happen. And that's the way I look at live these days, and that's the way I look at life these days. There you go.
There's something very special about Ron. He doesn't take himself too seriously. I've really missed him lately. He's been taking a bit of a rest from doing the streams.
Why do I need a sex spot when I have Jade?
Oh, we've got a bit of slow down there. That sucks. But anyway,
that's very relevant. I haven't seen that clip of Ron wearing that slowly.
Damn, my computer's struggling a little bit. I've got too many things running at the moment. But Ron doesn't take himself seriously. That's why we love him, and because he's super entertaining, and he's let me come on his show and talk utter nonsense. I went on his show once wearing a full body green screen suit with the eyes cut out, and he just let me do whatever the fuck I wanted. It was so much fun.
And that's definitely the thing. And you asked before, for advice about people that want to do sort of things, and I think that's just it. Just doing it. Like you'll get over those hurdles. It'll be nerve-wracking to start with, but getting over those hurdles. And Ron is a classic case. Like Ron wanted things to be amazing and be perfect to do it, but he's embraced what he's got, and it just goes to show that everyone will be entertained by something. And you don't have to. I think people are worried that they need to appeal to the mainstream, or they need to appeal to all people, or they need to do what everyone else is doing. Like that, they're successful, so I'll just copy what they're doing. That's the number one one-way ticket to misery town, because I'm never going to be as good a Jade Starr as Jade Starr, but I'm a pretty good Pete Johns, and vice versa. So if you try to just completely replicate what someone else is doing, you're going to fall short, and then you're going to feel like a failure, even though you could be a super successful version of yourself that's just something different. So be different, embrace your different.
That leads perfectly. Segue, Pete. You are rocking it today with segues into the next thing I was going to talk about. YouTube channels that teach you how to do things about running a YouTube channel, yet their whole channel is just about teaching people how to do YouTube channels, and they've never had any other channel that's been successful except for the YouTube channel that's teaching you how to be a YouTube channel. Seems like a snake eating its own tail to me. Can you actually learn anything from people's success who make YouTube channels teaching you how to be a YouTube channel?
I come and go on this stuff because I look at it in terms, because I like a lot of sports. I know that it's not popular to like music and sport, but I do. But the best coaches are not necessarily the best players. So I'm never going to say that you need to be number one peak elite at something before you can teach someone else. I think that that's just not the way things work, because sometimes people that are really good at things, they're actually terrible at explaining how to do them. So if Mr. Beast, who's like one of the biggest, most subscribed to YouTubers, if he just started doing a YouTube channel, it would probably be terrible, because Jimmy has never really done that, and he got so big so early, and now he has a team of people, so he probably doesn't keep up to date with all the different algorithm things and what you should put in the chat and in the comments and put in the metadata and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think it needs to be all the other way, but I also think, like, I love Rene Ritchie, because he is now the creator advocate for YouTube. He was an independent creator. So he worked for iMore for a long, long time, and was an Apple pundit, like talking about all things Apple. He then created his own YouTube, which he built from scratch up to 250,000 subscribers. And then he got his job for YouTube. But he didn't start telling other people how to do YouTube on his YouTube channel until he'd actually built a YouTube channel that was effective, and he knew what he was actually talking about. And it was about technology. It was about something else. It wasn't about how to do it. It kind of links into my absolute number one pet peeve, which is people that are selling people like the get rich quick stuff and the cryptocurrency stuff, and now it's moving into the AI stuff, where people are just jumping on the flavor of the month, creating a course, doing their course launch, creating false scarcity, doing the bullshit backstory, doing all the stuff that those of us that have been around this stuff for a long time know about. But they just are jumping on things that they know nothing about, just to capture that market at that point in time. And it's, I think I said in a recent video, it's in best case scenario manipulative, can't say that word, and worst case it's just straight out scamming people. And I think the same thing can be said for the YouTube channel that tell you how to do YouTube. And it's like a musician that tells you how to play music, but they don't actually release any music. I don't have any respect for that, and I think I've seen a lot of channels go down that path. And look, I understand it. I have to focus more on doing tutorials and making my own music, because let's be really realistic about this. As much as I love DistroKid, my DistroKid check that I cash at the end of every month ain't nothing compared to the YouTube check that I cash at the end of the month. So I need to focus on my YouTube channel and what that is about, as opposed to my music. And I guess that's what a lot of these channels are doing. What's your experience been with this, Jade, in terms of because you've been learning the whole YouTube stuff, and you've probably gone to the same channels that I have that talk about different things. What have you found that's been effective, or from those channels that are actually helping you learn stuff?
I do like the basic stuff that they show, the stuff that is needed to navigate around YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But when it gets to talking about how you should be and stuff, that's when I fall off, because and a lot of the times with a lot of these channels, I find they'll do a video on how to do something, but then they do like a 15-minute video on how to do something, and then at the end they finish with, but remember, we're all unique, and you'll have to maintain your individuality, so you do you. And I just think, well, that was 15 minutes down the toilet, wasn't it? Because I am doing me. And I get frustrated with thumbnail videos and stuff like that, because everyone's all like, and I think, thumbnails are, because there's so many channels telling people how to do thumbnails, that they all look the same. And I've had people talk about my thumbnails and go, oh, they're really boring and you should change them. And it's like, okay, but it says everything on it. And it has a little cartoon character instead of me doing all that stuff, because I feel ugly and I don't want to get on there. I guess, you just got to follow your gut and try things and take them with a grain of salt. It leads me to a video I watched last night from FabFilter. They put up a video it wasn't last night, it's about a year ago it came out. It was a part 2 of loudness for mastering. And it was really good. Like, it went through using their mastering tools, their FabFilter tools, so the limiter and everything. But then at the end, I just loved the way he went through all the skills you need. And then at the end, it just said, but really, when it comes down to it, all that matters is, does it sound good?
Yeah.
Because it has to sound good. And if it sounds like shit, And it was perfect. I just wish somebody would release a video that just went for 2 minutes on mastering that said, does it sound good? That's the end of the video. Move on.
Yeah, no, look, I've done mastering in the past. I don't lose sleep over it because I don't get into the weeds of it as much as some other folks do. But I like Ian Shepherd, who's my favorite mastering engineer of all time, and he's actually got a show that he does with John Tidy, who's the Reaper blog guy. If you're a Reaper, if you ever use Reaper, and they talk about mastering a lot. But he basically starts off with, for new people, what is the definition of mastering? And he says, mastering, the number one thing about mastering is do no harm. So you need
Absolutely.
good quality final mix, and then you need to only do things that will enhance it. And if you do anything drastic in a master, it means your final mix isn't any good, and you need to go back to your final mix. So your mastering should be, and a lot of mastering is like honestly slapping on a limiter and just tuning up the overall volume a little bit to make it a bit more consistent. Like I've definitely seen songs where that's all that is required. And he, as a mastering engineer, says, yeah, but for all the gear I have and for these mastering engineers that have these pristine sound treated rooms with the perfect speakers and the perfect setup, yeah, quite more often than not, they're getting a really good final mix and they're having to prove something by changing a bunch of stuff. And he said the secret sauce really is that underneath all that, they're making such minuscule changes that it's not really doing anything. And if you don't have all that gear, don't worry about it because you're going from 99% to 100%. And for 99% of listeners out there, 99% is going to be absolutely fine. So don't lose any sleep over it.
Yep. I didn't mention this, so if you're wondering what this code is in the chat, Chem has put up a few codes. So if you copy that and put it into redeem a code on the App Store, you may get a free app. So thanks, Chem, for doing that. You rock, my friend.
Cool.
Speaking of mastering, let's jump to this topic. This week, I did a complete guide to Bandcamp. You're not on Bandcamp, Pete.
No, I should be.
Is it a thing you're considering?
Yes, I think I may even have an account that I just don't use. I think Bandcamp just kind of missed me. I think when I wanted to be a musician, because before I started doing YouTube education, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to release music. That's why I started doing this, because I wanted to learn GarageBand and then learn how to release my music that I created in GarageBand, which is how I found DistroKid, which is how I realized. So I basically skipped Bandcamp because I just went to DistroKid. And at that time, 6 years ago, people were actually still buying music on iTunes. So I would actually sell copies of my single and my album and my EP. So that really doesn't happen anymore. I don't remember the last time I or anyone I know has bought something on iTunes. And plus, when you buy something on iTunes, 70% of it goes to the artist, 30% to Apple, and then you got to wait 3 months to get the anything back through the royalties because they take so long to report it through. So I think that the time is right now for I see Bandcamp as more like Patreon or more like giving someone a donation than actually buying their music old school way. And I've actually done that. So even though I don't release my stuff on Bandcamp, I bought Thomas Christ. So I was going to give Thomas Christ a donation, and then I'm like, you know what? The best thing for me to do is to just buy Thomas's entire back catalog of every album he's ever released. And so I did that through Bandcamp. If I want to go listen to Thomas's music, though, and this is my number one problem, and I'm interested on your thoughts on this, I don't go to Bandcamp. I go to YouTube Music because that's what I'm subscribed to. That's where my playlists are. That's where it's easy for me to access music in my car, on my phone, on my computer, everywhere I go. I find Bandcamp a little clunky in terms of, I know they have an app, and I know that you can listen to it there, but it's like an extra step. And as we've discussed, I'm a simple and lazy man. So that's my number one, not gripe, but reason that I'm not big into Bandcamp yet.
I love Bandcamp, and I love the way you integrate it with DistroKid, because you take your ISRC codes and put it all in there as well, and it all ties together beautifully. And you know what? I released the Kindercore song, The Gospel of Hate, this week. Already sold, I think, 16 copies of it in two days. And that is instant money that comes straight into your PayPal. And, they take a little bit. That's all cool. But it just really is a cool way to, because you're right, iTunes, nobody's buying anything on iTunes anymore. iTunes is dead. I kind of expect in the next up to 5 years, iTunes is going to be gone. They'll totally remove that store. I think. Plus, this leads me into something else. The other thing that Bandcamp, which I talked about on my walkthrough, my complete guide to Bandcamp was you can release vinyl through Bandcamp. And the way they do it is like a Kickstarter project. So you say, I want to release vinyl. This is the vinyl. I've got the music. This is all the artwork. And then you put it up to all your fans, and you've got to reach, so it's 250 vinyls, and you've got to reach a certain goal. And then you've got 30 days to get it pledged for. And then if it makes it, it makes it. Then all the money's taken, and then they send out all the albums to everybody. It's really cool. Like that, because there's a lot of people getting into vinyl, and that leads me to vinyl questions. Are you back into vinyl?
I never really was. I was a child of the late 80s, early 90s. So I came in the tail end of cassettes and the front end of CDs. So I kind of missed the whole vinyl thing. Vinyl was around when I was very young, and there was the older albums. So my mum had put on Neil Diamond, Hot August Night, ABBA Arrival, that sort of stuff, and rock out to that. So I had exposure to vinyl records that way, and I didn't get back into it because I do have a little bit of an addictive personality, and I knew that if I bought myself a decent turntable, I would go out and start buying, rebuying all of the. I don't know many people have started doing this, and more power to you. But I don't have a large house. I already have way too much clutter, and I know what I would do. I mean, behind me over here is all my CDs because I just had nowhere to put them. So I'm like, oh, they can be a decorative item behind me on my shelf. So yeah, I haven't got back into it, but what I do love, and even with those CDs there, I've started actually going through and putting those on and listening to albums end to end and looking at the liner notes inside. And I understand the appeal of a record because it's like that, but like you feel like you're a small person, and this is like this giant format because it's a big gatefold, and you've got all the album artwork and you've got all the liner notes there. And so I do like that, and I get the whole physical experience thing because I used to love CDs, and I'm weirdly enough getting back into listening to CDs. But yeah, I haven't gone down the vinyl route, and let's never say never, but I'm not going there yet. I do. Every time I think about vinyl, I think it's funny. The movie Wayne's World, the band they have, Crucial Taunt, with I forget the name of the actor, Tia Carrera. She makes a comment at one point where she's like, isn't it sad to think that we'll never actually be on a record? Because at that time it was like mid-90s and records were so naff and no one was releasing records. And now I'm just like, I reckon that now it would be, isn't it weird to know that we'll never be on CD? Because CDs are kind of the dead format now. And yeah, very few people are having actual formats. And again, but it's going retro because there's some our artists that are now releasing albums only on record and cassette, and they're not even launching it on streaming. And I find that really weird and wacky that we've kind of gone full circle, that the exclusivity is now in the actual format, is in the physical format. So yeah.
I love that exclusivity and stuff. I think that's really cool. I think that generates buzz and something different. And the other thing too, what I like about Bandcamp is you can add into your Bandcamp albums and singles extra stuff like, images, posters. You can add all that stuff in as special. So you get that kind of feeling, even though it's still digital product, you can still have those digital books and everything. You can make all that stuff. I like that. I wish Apple Music and Spotify would do that kind of stuff too. That would be really cool. That would just make the experience so much more. Imagine like clicking on the Apple Music app and clicking on your album, and a little booklet appears that you can just swipe instead of lyrics, and the pages turn. That would be really kind of cool to see that kind of thing.
I think we're far away, considering that we can't even do deluxe versions, but big record labels can. So you'll notice that if it's a release on Apple Music or Spotify, they do have some extras. So there are some deluxe versions that have nothing that cool, but they've just bonus tracks and things like that. But yeah, us as independent creators don't have access to those back end things. But yeah, it would be cool, and I think it kind of comes back to the whole 1,000 raving fans. For anyone that's read the book Raving Fans and has heard about that concept, there's this concept that if you have 1,000 fans that really love what you do, you can kind of make a full-time go of it doing the thing that you love doing, which I kind of took that concept of and am doing it now. I probably don't. I'm a bit different. I don't have 1,000 raving fans. I've probably got 100 fans that really like what I do, and then maybe 5 to 10,000 people that sort of check in from time to time, and that they help. They help things as well. But the concept being that the whole Patreon concept, the whole concept of wanting to support someone, it is weird. I run a business, yet people will choose to donate money to me, and it's like the concept of that. Like, can you imagine going down to Coles or Woolies or Walmart for American folks and donating to that company? They're like, yeah, you're running your business, and we really like your business, so here, have a $20 donation. Like, that's just not what you do. But because you have that personal connection, you will donate. And I think it's the same with this sort of stuff on Bandcamp. With an artist that's actually releasing stuff, people want to support that person and that artist. And sometimes it's not even about the stuff you get. It's about wanting to support. I went to the Weird Al concert this week and I bought a t-shirt for $50. I didn't think that a $50 t-shirt was a great investment because I could buy a similar t-shirt at Kmart for $13. But I know, because I know the industry, that's the way that artist is actually getting enough money, because the cost to tour, the cost to promote, the cost to hire a venue, the cost for all your musicians and all your stage and all your lighting and all your it's massive. And the only way that they can actually scrape together a living as a musician these days is selling a t-shirt. So I'm going to buy a t-shirt and I'm going to pay twice as much as I think I should, because I know that's basically a donation back to that creator.
Yep, that's the world we live in as touring musicians. I wouldn't know. I don't tour anymore. So there's a third code that has dropped here from Chem OK, and if you copy and paste that, and if you don't know how to do it, let's show you how to do it. So you go to your app store and you click on your little photo up here, and there's a little redeem gift card code, and you need to put that code right there and hit go, and you're done. And you will score a wonderful free app from Chem OK. Now, I had open here, I was going to talk about this. Let's bring it up here. Music, is it classical? There it is. This is Apple's new app. Exciting stuff. And you can pre-order it right now. You can go and click on it and download it now. Well, you can't download it now. It'll put a check mark. So when it's released, it looks like, what, the 28th of March? It drops. So if you go and hit purchase now, it'll put a little tick next to it. And then as soon as it's released, it'll magically appear on your home screen on that day. Is anybody in the chat excited about downloading the new Apple Music Classical app? I am.
Yeah, look, I'm going to take a look at this. I listened to a lot of This Week in Tech stuff. So Leo Laporte was talking about this because Apple actually acquired Prime Phonic, which is the previous classical app that used to have high quality, high def classical recordings in an app, and then shut it down like a few weeks later. So we've been waiting for nearly 2 years for them to actually launch this. And for classical music fans, it's weirdly enough that the way that music is presented, and we're seeing this more and more, if you go into Spotify or if you go into Apple Music, it's pop music. So the way that music is presented is, here's the album, here's the artist, here's the track listing. And that's where you get album, artist, genre, because genre is important. I don't know if I've said that before, but genre is important, Jade. The name of the track listings. Whereas classical music doesn't really work that way, because sometimes you're having one movement of a thing is going to be 40 minutes, and an entire concert might be 3.5 hours, because it's every concerto that is part of that particular. I don't know. I'm running out of classical music terms because I'm not a classical music buff, but it is different. And apparently, from what I hear from classical music fans, is that it doesn't work. It doesn't translate. And the funniest one was, again, watching This Week in Tech, Leo Laporte said, yeah, when he asked for Beethoven now through Apple Music, it plays like Roll Over Beethoven by Falco. And it's like, as much as I love hearing is a little bit of Falco, it's not really what I'm looking for there. So in a pop music world, if you're a classical music fan, I think this is great news. And maybe there'll be a metal version. There should be, every genre should have its own thing. So so that you can release a 50-song album with 1.5 minute songs for metal and punk.
What I'm interested to know is, will we, with this, be able to finally upload music as classical? Because I don't think we can at the moment. Can we?
Good.
Oh, no, it is in there. It is in there. But see, if I jump over to DistroKid, and I've picked classical, and it says, if you choose the classical genre, iTunes, Apple Music won't accept it. Other stores will gladly accept it, though. So hopefully, once this is released, maybe this will change.
See, I had no idea about that. So I didn't know that there was this gap in classical music when it came to Apple. But again, because they had purchased this Prime Phonic and were going to create their own, and it's taken them a very long time to actually do that. But it's weird. But I guess because, and again, it is hard because it's different. It's different way of formatting not only the music but the metadata. So to have a platform, and again, DistroKid and other places may have to change up the metadata that they can put in there. So I'm sure as soon as we know more about this, and as soon as Apple release the metadata layout and things, because you'll know that if you go into DistroKid, and I don't do a lot of this because you and beat makers with featured artists and having to worry about all that sort of stuff, but there's very particular ways that if you're collaborating and you've got a featured artist, you have to have the title look exactly a certain way, and you have to make sure you put it in the title and not the artist if it's a featured artist. And there's some particular stuff. So I'm assuming it'll be for all you classical music creators out there, of which I'm hearing crickets, but anyone that is keen to do some classical music, then you'll have an opportunity to do this. And I think it's cool because classical music fans, they want to hear like this particular conductor that did this particular movement of this particular concerto on this particular day at this particular hall. And so being able to define and refine it down to that rather than just whatever is the most popular. Because I know when I've got into trying to listen to classical music, it's like best of Bach. And it's like one of those CDs like you get in the $2 basement outside of Brash's in 1994.
Brash's.
So hopefully it would be a little bit, Brash's.
Brash's.
Last time you thought about Brash's.
Man, they used to sell everything too. Music, guitars, they sold everything. Amplifiers. God.
Brash's was great. You could go from basement to level 3. You could buy sheet music in the bottom. That was where all the like people hung out buying sheet music. Ground floor was like CDs and cassettes.
Yeah.
That was where the people just went in to buy their music. And then you go to the first floor, and that was guitars and amps. And you go to the second floor, and it was like violins and cellos and shit. And like, it was the best thing. You could have a whole day of just browsing music related stuff. It was like a music superstore. It was awesome.
It's funny. The one thing I remember, it isn't even from Brash's. It was a comedy show, and I think it was the dude from Australian Idol, the country singer. What's his name? Who came second? And he's
Shannon
Knoll. And they did it. It was on some comedy show. They did a joke about Shannon Knoll's album not selling. And in the gag, he rolls up into a Brash's, and they had the big card thing there with all the things. And he was buying them all off the shelf. He's buying his own albums.
I remember that. It might have even been the Late Show.
It probably was the Late Show.
It was those Working Dog guys or something like that.
So
It was one of those sort of comedy shows. And I know people outside of Australia are going to be like, Brash's? What the hell are you two talking about? But what could you relate Brash's to? I guess it's like a Guitar Center, although Guitar Center doesn't have the stuff. So it was its own thing.
Yeah. Chemol K asks this question. I can almost answer this because we joke about this all the time. Can I ask Pete a question? Do you like my apps? Now, this is interesting because we joke about this all the time. Pete you don't really do a lot of apps and stuff because I do them all, and it's like, what's the point?
I feel really bad. Not bad, but I haven't. Yeah, I have taken a sabbatical, is the way I'll put it, from apps for a couple of years. And I always say to Jade, I'm so glad you do your show. I used to cover apps a lot, and now I don't have to. And it's not that I don't like apps. It's that that thing where you spend so much time doing a thing that then you just need to completely not do it for a while. That's me in apps. So I haven't downloaded a new app. I haven't reviewed a new app in a long time. And I feel really bad because I have wonderful developers who reach out to me, who offer me codes, who want me to review their apps. And I say, yeah, look, right now, more than happy to take it, to install it, to have a bit of a play, and eventually maybe one day I'll actually do something with it. So my apologies out there to all the hardworking developers that I haven't been engaging with and working on stuff. I think I'm almost ready to actually experiment with some things again, because as I get back into more music making, I'm actually finding that I do want to experiment more and try more things and do things a little bit differently. So but at the end of the day, I'm very basic, and because my audience have been so basic, and a lot of people for the last few years have been new to music and even new to GarageBand and new to mobile creating. I've been very focused on making sure I'm showing things that are simple and accessible to everyone. But that being said, a lot of people who have been following me for a long time are now at that intermediate and advanced level. So they do want more of that. So, and I'm hearing that people want me to do more GarageBand Mac, more Logic stuff, more more AU V3 stuff. So yeah, I think it's about time that I get back to doing the apps, at least doing the smaller app reviews. So yeah, sorry, Jim. I will get back there. But
it's one of the things I love about your channel, that you do keep it very simple, and and that's because things do get overcomplicated. And speaking of which, again, segue, an app dropped this week, which I'll be looking at. Which has caused, it makes me, it's an interesting one. I really like this app. It's called AUBE. And when you open it up for the first time, it says, this is how many AUV3s you have.
Oh,
650 installed. And I'm seeing all over Facebook, everybody posting their screenshot of how many apps they have of their badge of honor. And it's quite interesting because, it makes you think hard. Shit, am I using all these? Wow. Do I need all of these on here? What is going on? I currently have 650 installed. And what this app does is it breaks everything up all into categories and stuff. And what's really cool, it creates a keyboard. So when you go to your keyboard, you can choose AUB as a keyboard, and it can scroll through your apps to find them more easily. But all I'm seeing at the moment, before I do my show next week, is screenshots of this. And the highest one I've seen was somebody post today on a Facebook group, 935 apps on their goddamn device. I'm like, and then I went to their Facebook page, Pete, and guess what? I couldn't see any music that they've made.
And yeah, I know you say apps are not like Pokemon, you don't have to collect them all. And it's 100% true. And I know I go back and forth on this because I've been critical in the past of people that do a lot of talking about music, a lot of noodling with music, and zero output. I've now flipped around on that, and I'm like, as long as you're happy with that, as long as you're not then ranting and complaining about the fact that, oh man, I'm just not getting anything done and I feel so frustrated. And it's like, well, that's because all you're doing is watching YouTube and downloading apps and trying out and fiddling with new apps. You're not actually using them to create music. And that's kind of where I've got to, is that apps should be, I'm creating a song. This song needs this. Can I do this with what I have now? No. Okay. What is there an app out there that I can do this with? Oh yeah, cool. And then use that app. So that's the way to go. And I've just noticed that this is Fred Corvest. This is our FAC.
Yes, indeed. It's solid, man. It's a good app. Like when I first saw it, I was like, really? Do we need this? And then once I got the keyboard installed, just to show you, so if you open, unfortunately it doesn't work with GarageBand because it needs to work with something that has a search field. So you can see here, if I go to a search field in AUM and hit do a search, I can hit the little world button and look, it lets me choose the keyboard. And then I can just pick an app and look, it just brings it up for me. I can scroll through, go through like drum apps, and it finds me the app really easily. That's really cool.
I like it because it's solving a problem that we've created ourselves. Like far too many apps and you can never actually find one that you actually want to use. Well, use this apper.
Totally. Totally.
Love you, Fred. It is actually a really good idea.
It's brilliant.
But it is weird because it's like the old Jerry Seinfeld joke of it's like we didn't stop riding bikes when we kept falling off them and cracking our heads. We just put a helmet on so that we could continue our head cracking lifestyle. We didn't you don't go and pare down your apps and just delete the ones you never use. Just get this apper, and then you can see all 750 of your apps and exactly which one you need for which occasion. I
think he's going to sell heaps just so people can the badge of honor things. Just that's already won people over, you know.
That's the thing where I'd be the opposite. If I would be embarrassed, and I'm just like, if you have 100, you're no longer my friend. That's just not, unless you're an app reviewer. I think that sometimes there's too much. But again, I say all that, but please support your local developers. And please buy
100%.
apps. Please don't complain about the price of mobile apps, because I'm looking at this one, $9.99. That's $10. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. And mobile apps are dirt cheap. The developers work bloody hard to create them. So support your developers. And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the whining and the complaining, because that time you spend being negative, you could move on and create some music, hey?
Indeed. Now, I know you have to get your backside out of here and skedaddle,
Yeah.
so I'm going to let you go early, because what I'm going to do while you go is I'm going to finish off my DistroKid sponsor thing, and I'm going to master a brand new song quickly. I song yesterday on my stream live in 30 minutes. I've recorded a brand new FMC song.
Oh, yeah.
And it's delightful. Of course it's delightful. It's got a wonderful title that I'm sure nobody's going to get offended at, called, what is it called? The Awful Taste of Your Remains.
Nice.
So I'm going to master that and get us out of here. So, folks, Pete, I want to thank you for coming on to my 100th interview. I want to thank you so much for your friendship and, as always, and everything you've given me to help me get to this point on this channel. Your help and friendship has been absolutely invaluable and continues to be. Folks, if you don't know, all the links to Pete, they're all down in the description. And straight after this show, I will Jade raid you over to Pete and send you all over there to watch his podcast, which is coming up in about 13 minutes' time.
Yes. Yep. No, and again, thank you for having me here. You mentioned in your introduction online, at least on the Facebook stuff, that I was the gateway drug for a lot of people to get into iOS music creation. So you're welcome, and I apologize, depending which way you want to look at that. But it's good, and I love the members of this community, and I love seeing the creativity and the passion that you all have. It is amazing, and jump on over the podcast recording today. I know it's about gear, but I'm going to be talking realistically about gear. I'm going to be doing my desert island. If I could only have 5 pieces of kit to record and I was dumped on a desert island, what would those 5 pieces of kit be? So start thinking about what yours would be, because you might be surprised at some of the things that I would bring if I could only have 5 pieces of kit, and maybe 5 AUV3 apps. Maybe I'll do that next time. What are 5 of the 500 apps that I would actually take with me?
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. Good luck. I'll see you over there. I'll bounce everybody over there, and thank you for being here for today, everybody. Pete Johns, the man, the myth, the legend. I'll give you some applause too.
Rock on. Stay cool.
See you later, Pete. Bye. How do I end the call? Do I do this? Boom. Let's try it. See you, Pete. There we go. All right. Here is the new album artwork for the new FMC EP I am going to drop with DistroKid, our wonderful sponsor. What do you think, guys? This is The Awful Taste of Your Remains. I recorded this yesterday on the stream live in 30 minutes using Nembrini's brand new EN Hardball app, which is fucking sick. It is such a brutal sound. And this artwork I created in using... what's it called? The thing, Mid-Journey. It took a long time to get to it. I actually started out with this image here that Mid-Journey created, and then I re-pumped this back through with more keywords and more lighting, and then it came out with this amazing piece of artwork. This took me about 30 minutes to do and put it all together. So we're going to jump over today. I've done a mix of this track. We're going to jump over here to DistroKid. We're going to use the brand new mastering service that comes with DistroKid for $99 a year. If you are a DistroKid member, you can master. You get a free track to master to try it. You'll see up the top here of your DistroKid, master a track. So it's pretty easy to do. Let's do it. Let's jump in and master this track. All you need to do is upload. So we're going to click on here, find this track in Audio Share. Where is it? Audio, Awful Taste. This is the one, I think. We'll just make sure I've got the right one because I did a remix last night. Here it is. So it's nice and small. We've got this nice small wave file here. Let's have a quick listen. You get the idea. I redid all the vocals after the show yesterday, and Cold Acre added some guitars to it. So, or one guitar track. So we'll jump back over here. Let's test this shit out, man. Awful Taste. it's uploading the file. I think I know what kind of master I'm going to do here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to later today make sure the master's all good. We're going to upload it to DistroKid with all that artwork, and it should be out soon. And I'll be working on a video clip over this weekend to release next week with the song. You won't see me make this video clip. Normally I do a show showing you my process making the video, but this one's going to be a surprise because it's pretty gory. And it's probably going to get blacklisted on YouTube, which... what do you do, man, for a song called the Awful Taste of Eating Your Remains? I can't do Sunshine and Lollipops. So here we go. It's uploaded the song. Quick and easy. So easy to use this. We've got our original version here. And as I've done this before, I already have an idea of how I want to master this. So let's scoot over to the mastered version. You've got 3 different ways to do it. You've got a low, and you see that really doesn't change things up too much from the original version. There's the original. You've got a mid intensity and a high intensity. I'm going to go with the mid intensity for now. I think I went low last time I did a song, and it was just that little bit too low. I'm looking for about 14 luffs, and, you know, that's what I'm looking for. Let's have a listen to this mastered version. Whoa! To the original. Back to the master. Jesus! Wow, that sounds really good. So you also have EQ options here of bright, like brighter, the brightest, the brighter, the mid, or you can go warmer. Let's move it over to warmer and see what it sounds like. Bring it back to the middle. Yeah, it's a bit high-endy there. I might bring it over to the here. Cool. I like that setting right there. I think that's nice. I think that mid setting just makes it a little too bright. Hear it again. I don't want those hi-hats and those rides to be way too bright, because it is a dark song. So I think that's what we'll go with. And you know what? You can go and do it again. So you can redo it if there's a problem. So let's hit download mastered track. Let's bang it out. And basically now it's downloading the files. And when it's done, it gives you a selection of files to download. So you can take the high definition version. You'll see that in a second. And it tells you what it has mastered this as, and it actually puts all that into the name of the file, which is nice. So you can differentiate between your mixed version that you've uploaded and the mastered version. And if you do a different version in here, you'll see that it may have like the mid EQ, a low intensity. So that's really cool. So this service is $99 a year and perfect for if you're like recording a lot of music. Yeah. And if you don't know how to master and it's all too confusing, this will take it all the hard work out of learning all that stuff, or don't use it at all. It's fantastic that DistroKid offers such a service. We're so lucky and privileged to have the ability to do this, yeah? This day and age, you don't know how to do something, the company that you use to release your music offers you a solution. So here's our 3 versions. We've got an Ultra HD, we've got a 16-bit 44 and an MP3. You're definitely not going to want the MP3 unless you want to send it to somebody, but you can change it to an MP3 later. So we're going to take the highest quality Ultra HD 48 kilobit, 48K 24-bit and hit yes, please. And that's it. And we're going to download it and kaboom. It should already be downloaded, hopefully. Let's check if it's in my files. There it is. All done. I'm going to move this now into my audio share so we can get a look at it. Looks a bit loud, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because if I want to make it a little bit softer, see, this is the master I did. Pretty close, yeah? So this is the master I did using Lursons. And this is the master from DistroKid. Pretty damn impressive if you ask me. So I will be uploading this. Of course, I've got to listen to this on my monitors while we are off the air so I can make sure everything's good. And then this should be out very soon. And that is it for today. I want to thank you all for being here and hanging out with me and Pete today. I want to thank Pete for coming on the show for the 100th episode. I want to thank you for supporting this channel and allowing me to do this every day and present apps and present great artists. I want to thank all of the 100 people who've come on this show and bared their souls, man, just been so honest with who they are and shared their stories, because it's an absolute, I don't use the word blessing much because, but it has been a blessing to have so many people come on here and share who they are with me and with you. I think it's a wonderful thing to get to know who people are behind the music. And you know what? This year's going to be no different. There's going to be some amazing artists coming up this year. Next week on the show, we've got Kim Harden Hudson coming on for our Behind the Song show, where she's going to show us the behind the scenes of how she made one of her songs. So that'll be sponsored by DistroKid as well. So please join us for that. On the weekend, I'll be doing my opening hour. And guess what? I have no idea what I'm doing. So keep your eyes peeled to the channel to see what mischief I'll be getting up to. I want to thank you all for the kind wishes for the 100th interview. It's been a blast. I love doing it. So we've got a 40-second song to go out with today, and then I'm going to boot you all over to Pete and his podcast. Lastly, before I play this, I want to thank DistroKid. Man, if you use my code here, the Thomas has put there, distrokid.com/VIP/Jade Starr, you will get 7% off your first year with DistroKid, and I just want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for sponsoring this channel. I'm a really small channel, and what they provide for sponsoring me really helps me keep this channel going. It really is. And your support too. I want to thank you all so very much. Keep your eyes peeled, because the FMC song will drop really, really soon. And the next song I'll be recording is even more exciting. Dread Circus up next over the next few weeks. This is the new FMC track called The Awful Taste of Your Remains. 40 seconds of brutality. I will turn it up loud as shit, and we'll go out with the album cover so you can see it all. And it'll be on Bandcamp and everything. Do the things that make you happy. Remember, mistakes make you better, and we'll all rise together. Let's do this. I'll bring up... Let's hit play, and then we'll bring up the artwork. Let's go!
Together, 'cause you make me shine better, and we'll all rise together.